Hello, everybody, and welcome to this brand new episode of our Vodcast series, The Student Voice. And today I'm delighted to be joined by one of our student ambassadors, Saeed. Saeed is a Management and Tourism and Sport final year student and has just finished up. And Saeed, you're very welcome to today's episode.
Well done. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. So, Saeed, I suppose we'll start off by talking about maybe your experience over the last 4 years. How have they been at AIT?
It's been great. I wasn't actually too nervous going in, would you believe? Because I knew people there, but the 4 years I've loved it because having it such a small community with students, and then obviously the interaction with lecturers, I knew I'd prefer it much more over than being in a classroom with 300 or 400 people. So having that connection with lecturers obviously made it so much important for me anyways. And then obviously with the sports facility, going into a sports and tourism course, I fell in love with the arena, let's say, and it actually worked out to my benefit because I ended up doing placement with Sportsco and getting work with them afterwards, as well as with the FAI through the sports department. Flat out during second year, third year, and fourth year with them. So it was
okay, so let's go back then to, I suppose, before you started college. You're in secondary school. Can you talk to us a little bit about making that decision of what course you're going to choose to study at third level, and how did this course, I think it was sport and recreation was your first choice. How did that come about at AIT?
Well, weirdly enough, I didn't have PE in my secondary school, which I missed so much, but I ended up going to the open day. And that's when I kind of met a friend that had already been in, I think, second year at the time. And he brought me around to the gym and then obviously different classes. And just the whole being a part of the atmosphere and in the huge arena and seeing the classes going on, that actually drawed me so much for the kind of side of it. And I knew straight away with playing soccer in the meantime, I wanted to go into something sports related back to my passion.
Okay. When you got to college and you started college, what was your initial thoughts over the first couple of weeks or first couple of months? How did you find it in those early stages?
Well, I moved away from home, so it was tough cooking for myself. But other than that, studying wasn't actually too hard because of the different gaps. I think I must have had about 18 to 20 classes, hours a week. So in between those gaps, I was actually doing the homework, and I had the evening times for societies. So I was actually loving life out there. So much better than going from secondary school to doing 6 hours straight of classes, let's say, and then back home, and then not wanting to do any work at all. So I actually enjoyed college more than secondary school. So
great. Let's talk about the course next. What does this course involve? Can you talk us through? I know you've gone through the full ladder system. You've gone from level 6 to a level 7 add-on, and now a level 8 add-on. And I know you've got hopes to want to go a bit further on to level 9. Can you talk to us a little bit about, I suppose, the level 6 elements and what does that involve for a student that's coming in to study this course?
Okay, so first year it starts from the start. I was nervous going into first year because I didn't do business or accountancy, and I knew they were two factors in first year. So I obviously was nervous with that, but then straight away once I got in, the lectures started from scratch. Everyone started from scratch, even though there were students there that had previously done it. But that was the great thing with anatomy. Then we had anatomy, which obviously was new to everyone, anatomy and physiology. And then sociology was great. And then psychology, there were 2 electives you can choose from. Other subjects were obviously in fourth year. Let's go straight to my favorite, event management. And then you have strategic management. So event management was my favorite just for it's so practical. And our course is so practical. Both well in second and third year, working with kids. And then obviously you got the opportunity to become a lifeguard as well. And a lot of students chose that because they did that in second year and allowed them to get work in third and fourth year. Right? There's so many different routes you can take with our course. And I believe now we only had a small bit of placement in third year, but I believe now there's international placement coming into that course. So if I'm going into it, 100% push them nearly to take the international placement, I think it would have been great. And I would have went down that route.
Okay, you mentioned there, a couple of different modules. You mentioned the likes of anatomy, you mentioned business, you mentioned accountancy, and you mentioned that you didn't study some of those subjects for the Leaving Cert. Do you feel you were at a disadvantage, or how do you feel in terms of a level when you came into the course? How did you feel you were in terms of that standard as expected?
Maybe a slight disadvantage in accountancy, but quickly caught up to everyone. It was what comes up on the exams is what you study in class, so it's not like you're not prepared for it. depends on how much work you really do put in the end. Obviously, some people might grasp it a lot quicker, but then other times people might have had a bad attitude to it coming into college because they have already done it, whereas I had just a fresh start. So it was great in that sense. Didn't know whether I'd like it or not.
Yeah. Into the idea of placements, you mentioned it briefly there, and you mentioned you doing your placement working in AIT in a sports setting. Let's talk about the values of placement. Did you feel that you learned a lot from that placement, or how do you feel that experience went for you?
Working with the placement actually really opened up my mind into doing a master's. Well, I'm thinking about it now in education, and some way trying to get into nearly PE teaching and business. But that was from the placement and seeing actually the involvement with kids and actually with the course as well, doing coaching, the involvement with kids. But placement really opened up my mind, and I actually really enjoyed it. So also I worked in retail in the evenings and on a Thursday and a Friday. Weekends I preferred working in sports co because working with kids was so much better than working with adults, I'm afraid. So
so that was your passion. That's what you enjoy. I know you a long time now, since you were in first year in the college, and you're a long-standing student ambassador. And I know from meeting you and even meeting you at the weekends, you're a very hard-working individual. You work, and even outside of class, you're always working. And whether that's working for AIT or working for Tommy Hilfiger, whoever it might be, talk to us about that balance, getting the balance right for students. That's balancing their academic studies, their sport, their club societies, and their part-time job. How did that go for you?
That's a funny one. So I didn't balance it too well in third year. So I kind of noticed that with my grades, they should have been higher. But then in fourth year, I dropped. Weirdly enough, in fourth year, 3 societies popped up that were new and that I wanted from day one. So Nathan there knows one as well. Photography. I wanted to get into photography, DJing, and then also go-karting. Go-karting is one of the best enjoyments now I have, and I do it on the weekends whenever I can. But working with all that, you really need time management. I ended up leaving my job. I saved up enough from second and third year, so I dropped Tommy Hilfiger there after Christmas. So I had that time in fourth year, at the end of fourth year, to really knuckle down. And I worked to my advantage, really, the closure of the college, which I wouldn't suggest banking on ever again. But you really need to do time management well. But to be honest, I would suggest students doing societies every evening. Do your work in between the hours during the day, and go to societies and sports, because if you're interested in that, like the likes of photography, you're going to meet people that are also interested in photography, and they tend to be your friends for life.
Great, brilliant. Let's just talk about maybe some of your highlight moments. You got involved in so much in AIT, and you talked about your hopes to go on and do a postgrad, a master in a certain area. But looking back on your undergrad, what do you think was your highlight moment, or your highlight moments, or what the best factors, the best things about AIT?
Best factor, that's a tough one. I would say societies. I just love getting involved. I was involved in anything I could actually get my hands on. Anytime I had time for, I tried to get involved in. But this year, fourth year, was probably my favorite year, even though it was most stressful. I had everything I wanted with regards to societies, and every day of the week I had something in the evenings to keep me busy. And I think it was good for my mental health as well, because to be honest, stressed out with exams. So the stress of fourth year, you kind of need to balance it with sports nearly.
Yeah. And just going back, one other question in relation to the course. I know that course is very balanced in terms of there's a lot of projects, a lot of presentations, a lot of case studies, and they weigh into your final results. So it allows you to build up a lot of marks throughout the year, and that not the final pressure is kind of taken off that area. You talked about exams there a couple of minutes ago. So the pressure is taken off. The exam isn't 100% exam at the end. You've got a lot of marks built up. So the work you put in throughout the year is definitely beneficial when it comes to getting your final grade. What would have been your element in terms of your favorite part of that section, in terms of the modules and in terms of the assessments?
Yeah, the continuous assessment has always been my strong suit compared to exams. I always lacked the concentration to learn that much content for an exam, but doing the continuous assessment and building up those extra marks was great. Even personal speaking, or doing a talk, or giving a piece on PowerPoint, that obviously was a huge benefit. and I actually
Yeah.
gained more confidence in then going looking for jobs. Like, I wouldn't have been doing this with you today if I was in first year. That's the truth. Like, and doing all that CA would actually get you ready for when you apply for work, because went in and did an interview, it wasn't as daunting as it would have been first year, let's say. And I've done a number of interviews now at this stage, and I'd be quite confident now going into an interview myself, like, and not being so much shy, like.
Brilliant. Saeed, thanks so much for coming on to today's episode. We wish you the very best of luck with your results for fourth year, but also for whatever you decide to do next. We wish you the very best of luck, and we thank you for all of your hard work throughout the last 4 years.
No worries, Dan. All right, take care.